fine young man took up a guitar in big Texan hands, rode into town for the picture show, heard about a gig on the radio, thrown into the sky with 3 other bright stars, lights, cameras, girls, guitars, got up so high it was hard to breathe. The tent collapsed and he took his leave, stuck out his thumb on the great highway with a neon sign that said going your way. A lonely light did lead him along, a pebble skipping across the pond. He gave some here and he took some there, settled in the town of anywhere, radio tower and a signal wave, pulsed in his blood and he forgot to shave. He drifted off for a nice long nap. When he awoke he couldn't find his cap, looked under his bed and over the stars to the other side where the lost caps are, the other side where gods and guides take their sweet time choosing up sides, deciding who gets which helmet or which map, or what to do with a lost wool cap. He lowered it down just above his hands to see if he might ever want to understand the difference between begging and praying, between going home and never staying, yeah, whether to leave and how best to stay. As he looked both ways, April turned to May, saw a house over there and a woman near, a fork in the road, somewhere a career. I had a Ferrari and a motorbike, a brand new harmonica he really liked, and a consciousness of a higher fate, loitering around outside his gate. Machines of motion, waves of emotion, the call of the great white Pacific Ocean. And as the prison rolled along with him, he took stock of the prison he was in. You choose what you write like you choose a wife, an alternate version of your own life. Accept all the blessings along with the wrath, veer on and off of each spiritual path. And he built a portfolio measure by measure, walked out the doors of First National Treasure, more than most microscopes able to see how songs glow and grow on a warm TV, where time is a watch as well as a listen. Time divides charity into 2 visions that float like smoke signals to stratospheres, over deserts and plains like ghost pioneers. The cactus called and he got distracted, made paper airplanes out of iron contracts. He missed a cue, thought of something to say that changed at least one universe to this day. But Michael would always be the exception, the perceiving man who defies perception, confusing the cosmic operators. They said, we need a moment, get back to you later, 'cause here was a turn they hadn't expected. The kind of dilemma requires reflection. How do we deal with a half-hearted man who rejects the half we hold in our hands? We're so unimpressed with riches and glory, can't soothe him to sleep with a bedtime story. What if we get him to paint the Grand Canyon on Pegasus, pulling a covered wagon? Or what if we never fix up all the fuck-ups? When you get dragged down, it's hard to be stuck up. Now that put a stop to the up in a favorite chair. Now worse than all this is the fate of a reader. Believes every word heard at the bird feeder. A warbler pushed under, count all the bubbles, and count on a folk singer to stir up trouble. The sun raised an eyelid, bellowed and yawned, instead straight ahead at an infinite dawn. From shadow to light, brighter than it could be, awed by itself as well it should be. But what of the cap and the gods up in heaven? They interrupted the news at 11. No sponsor has ever done this before. We'll drop a few crumbs, but then no more. So they dangled the cap just a little bit lower. Mike still didn't notice, so they tilted it over. Out poured a river, its mouth full of answers, diamonds, sorrow, solid gold dancers. Still all of that was hardly enough to convince old Nez that he wanted the stuff. But he tried yet again to put paper to pen, held the pick in his hand, counted back from 10. He knew in his heart he would hit it this time. The most metric of meters, the sublimest of rhymes. From belly to throat to tongue he was singing, and it summoned the angels like church bells ringing. He told a long story that was almost too long, ran out of air as he finished the song. Now that is more like it, he said with a grin, took a deep breath and he sang it again. And as he went limp, pale and exhausted, high fate came down, he was accosted. The angels beguiled by his lyrical ways lit fire to the curtain, smoked out the play. Critics just coughed and the crowd was no better. Rain and wind battered magnetized letters that flew from the marquee, mangling his name. Michelangelo Nesmith was back on his game. He stood with a fury for all of his captors on a pedestal made of plastic adapters that once spun his records for so many millions of years, till they all melted to black vinyl tears that fell from the faces of Buddha and Oz, riddled the masses and won God's applause. And still true believers screamed out his name. It seems Michael Nesmith could not elude fame, so he ate chocolate cookies with backstage idols, Crosby and Hope juggling various Bibles. And there was Davy in red robes too, hovering round an horizon so blue. And he dreamt of a circle that he was inside, and he dreamt of a circle surrounded by sky. One hand that draws what the other erases, and a green wool cat set adrift across the outer space.